If you've ever wanted to make thumbnails that actually stop people from scrolling, like the ones that make you click instantly, stick around. I'm going to walk you through a fast, practical workflow for making eye-catching YouTube thumbnails in Photoshop. I'll also share a neat trick to speed up your whole content pipeline using Vizard. I'm Vince, and this is the exact process I use when I need polished thumbnails that don't take forever to create. All right, first things first. Open Photoshop and create a new document. I like to work at 1920 by 1080, full HD. YouTube compresses thumbnails down, but working in full HD keeps everything crisp and gives you room to crop. Create it, and you should have a blank canvas ready to go. One tiny habit that saves me time is unlocking the background layer. Double-click it and hit OK. So it's a normal layer. Then import the photo you want to use for your thumbnail, usually a headshot or an expressive face. Here's a quick tip. Batch shoot a dozen goofy, crazy, or serious faces in one go. I set my camera on a tripod, fire off a bunch of takes, and then I have a library of expressions to choose from. It saves so much time later. Before we start cutting anything out, I always tweak the raw photo a bit first. Use Camera Raw or Photoshop's basic adjustments to lift highlights, open up shadows, and add a touch of contrast or exposure. You want the face to read clearly when it's small. That means bright highlights and punchy midtones. Don't overdo it. Aim for clarity that still looks natural. Now, let's jump onto the cutout process itself. Use the Quick Selection tool, then click Select Subject. Photoshop does a surprisingly good job and gives you a solid starting mask. It won't be perfect. Maybe some chair or background bits will get included, so press Q to jump into Quick Mask mode. In Quick Mask, everything outside the selection turns red. Grab the brush tool and paint with white to add to the selection, and black to remove. Toggle colors easily by hitting the X key. Zoom in, reduce brush size, max outflow and opacity, and refine those edges. This method is fast and precise enough for thumbnails, where tiny imperfections won't matter once the image is shrunk down. When you finish, press Q again, then copy and paste to create a new layer that's just your cutout. You can delete the old background layer now if you want. Position your subject larger than life, usually off to one side so you have room for big, readable text. Next up is setting the background layer. Create a new layer under your subject. Drag in a screenshot or a background texture, something relevant but not distracting. For thumbnails, I like to blur the background a bit so the face and text really pop. Gaussian Blur works great. Filter, blur, Gaussian Blur, and dial up an amount until the background is soft but still readable. Then use an adjustment layer, like curves clipped to that background if you want to darken it slightly. Darker edges make your subject pop more. If you prefer a vignette, you can paint a soft, large brush on a new layer with low opacity and reduced hardness. Paint along the edges with a darker color and drop the opacity to taste. This gives you more control than automatic vignettes and often looks cleaner on thumbnails. Now, back to the face. Add a clipped adjustment layer to brighten highlights and add contrast just to that face. Right-click the adjustment layer and create clipping mask so it only affects the layer below. Small targeted tweaks here make a huge visual difference when the thumbnail is tiny on mobile. It's text time, so create a new type layer and use big, bold words. Keep the text short and punchy. I tend to use fonts similar to the ones big creators use. Something blocky and readable like Obelix Pro, but pick what fits your brand. Make the main words white or a high contrast color, then style them with layer styles. Add a drop shadow with a small distance and soft radius, maybe an outer glow or a subtle stroke to separate the text from the background. Play with kerning and line spacing so it reads well, even when small. Add logos or icons if they help clarify the content, like a program icon for a tutorial. Drag and drop them in, resize, and add a tiny outer glow or stroke so they don't disappear into the background. Textures and overlays can make thumbnails look professionally finished. Search for subtle texture overlays, place them on top of the background layer, and experiment with blend modes like soft light or overlay. Reduce opacity so the texture is just a whisper. You want depth, not distraction. For small extras, try a colored rim light behind the subject to separate them from the background. Duplicate the subject layer, fill it with a bright color, place it behind, apply a slight blur, then mask it so it peeks around the edges. Or add a small drop shadow to the subject layer so they feel lifted. These micro details help click-through rates because they increase legibility and perceived quality. Now let's take a quick note about efficiency for scaling your output. If you're producing lots of videos, doing all of this manually for each thumbnail adds up quickly. That's where Vizard comes in and why I started using it in my workflow. Vizard isn't a Photoshop replacement. It's an AI assistant for your long-form content. It finds the high-energy moments that make great clips and thumbnail-worthy frames automatically. Instead of scrubbing through hours of footage to find that perfect facial reaction, Vizard surfaces moments where people react, laugh, or look shocked. These are the exact frames you want to turn into thumbnails. Here is how I integrate it into my process. I upload the raw video to Vizard, let it analyze and extract viral clips, then preview the suggestions. I pick the clip that has the best expression, export a frame, and bring that into Photoshop as my base photo. It saves me the time of hunting through footage, and the AI tends to find parts I'd otherwise miss. It also helps me scale. When you have a weekly posting schedule, you don't want to spend hours per episode searching for moments. Beyond clip selection, Vizard's scheduling and content calendar features let you plan posts across platforms. Once I have a few clips and thumbnails ready, I drop them into the content calendar, set posting frequency, and let the tool handle posting. It's way less manual than exporting opening platform UIs and scheduling one by one. If you want to tweak a thumbnail or caption last minute, the calendar makes it quick to swap assets. Compare that to other tools on the market. Some services only offer raw frame grabbing without good clip context, or they charge per clip and get expensive fast. Others force you into rigid templates and don't give you a scheduling or calendar system, so you still end up juggling spreadsheets. Vizard hits a nice balance. Smart clip detection plus scheduling and a central place to manage everything. This is perfect if you want to produce a lot of shorts and thumbnails without hiring an editor for each piece. Let's get back to finishing touches in Photoshop. Once you're happy, flatten a copy for export. Save a working PSD, then export as a JPG at high quality. Keep file sizes reasonable, as YouTube compresses anyway, but starting with a high-quality file is important. Also, save a smaller preview for socials if you plan to share the thumbnail itself. Here's the final checklist I run through before hitting save. Is the subject readable at 64 pixels? Is the main word legible on a phone? Do I have clear contrast between text, subject, and background? Too many colors is a no. Keep the palette simple and bold. And always keep a folder of your favorite expressions. You'll thank yourself when you need a thumbnail in 5 minutes. So to quickly recap the whole process. 1. Shoot a batch of expressive faces. 2. Import and lightly tweak in Camera Raw. 3. Use select subject plus quick mask to cut out precisely. 4. Replace and blur the background. 5. Use clipping masks for targeted adjustments. 6. Add bold, readable text with subtle layer styles. 7. Use overlays and blend modes for texture. And finally, 8. Export thoughtfully. Sprinkle Vizard into the early stage to automatically find those killer frames and to handle scheduling so you can scale without burning out. If you make content regularly, this combo, Photoshop for polish and Vizard for smart clip selection and scheduling, changes the game. It keeps your thumbnails looking high-end while letting you crank out more videos, which is the real win. If you found this helpful, give it a try. Batch shoot your faces, use Vizard to pull the best moments, and then polish fast in Photoshop. I promise your channel will feel quicker to run, and your thumbnails will look more intentional. All right, that's it for this one. See you in the next video.